Were there any low points in that journey?
Oh, so many. Oh, so many. Yeah, it was, I'd booked a couple gigs down in Los Angeles, and, um, I kind of gotten lost a little bit in the sense of I've never really lived alone. I didn't really have a good grasp of what taxes were. And which are surprise taxes. What are those? you know, so I'd made it, a good chunk of money, and I would just thought the money that was in my bank account was mine. And I ended up having, you know, I having not, I did have any money in my bank account at one point, and then I'd book a gig, and then I kind of, I took the foot off the gas a little bit because I got distracted by the pretty lights of Los Angeles and going out and partying and being something that I'm completely wasn't raised to be, but it's definitely something you go through in life. And I had some help from like some friends were giving me some money, this or that, because I'm like, oh, money would come in or I'd book a gig and I'd pay some back, or my parents would help me out. And then I finally just realized that I couldn't take another dollar from another person, and because it was just sort of this safety blanket. And I kind of said to myself and said to my parents and things like, look, I'm not going to take another dollar unless it's a dollar I earn it myself. And that choice was, I didn't have any money, so I needed to sort of put the gas back on. So I ended up moving into my car, and I had all my stuff, everything I possessed was in my car. And for probably about a year, I would couch surf and whatnot. The guy at the gym, Eduardo, God bless him, he never checked my pass. He just would always, hey, good morning, Eduardo, and he just buzzed me in, thinking that I paid all the time. So until he figured it out, which he never did, I'd go in there and shower at the gym and get a workout in, but it was. I remember I had a conversation with myself in my rear view mirror, and I was like, do I go back to Canada and because I was 26 at the time, and you know, and I'm living in my car. It's just there's not, I'm supposed to be living the dream. I left Vancouver and well, I made it. Like people think that I've made it, and I hadn't. But then I really kind of, started thinking. I was like, look, I've got everything right now. I've got my health. I'm chasing my dream. Um, I got people that believe in me. I have a legitimate agent. So maybe I do have everything. Material wise, I'm struggling a little bit, but I have everything that I need right now at this moment that I need to get a job. And it's just I needed to focus in on what that. I needed to stop worrying about, the next 3 or 4 years and just focus what I could control. And that was being completely focused and present on the work and tasks that I had at hand to get me out of the situation that I was in. I can't go home like this. Like I don't feel like I even gave it a real shot. So I I like actually gone out. I had some girl that I took out on a date, and I usually would eat before, so I could because I didn't have a lot of money, so we wouldn't go out anywhere. Especially like, oh, I already ate, or we just get like a coffee or something or whatnot. And this girl, like, we went up to this up by Mulholland, and I really liked her too. And she was like, "So where do you live?" And I kind of pulled off to the side, and I was parked right in front of this beautiful house, like just like probably $10 million house on Mulholland. And she's like, "So where do you live?" And I'm like, "Okay, AJ, this is where you just be honest for the first time, and you're just gonna say I live right here, right here." And she's like, "Holy shit, this is your house?" I'm like, "Oh no, this is terrible." I'm like, "Oh God, this is you can't recover from this." I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 that's not my house." She's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, I live here in my car." She's like, "You live in your car?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "That's my suitcase." She's, "You need to take me home right now." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, so that didn't go well. But then I just kind of like laughed it off, and I became comfortable with, if someone had asked, like, yeah, it sucks right now, like, but I'm figuring it out and making it work. It was I'd sort of flipped the perspective of like having no money to a positive, and looking at the how much opportunity I had in front of me as opposed to I didn't have money and I'm not going to be able to do anything. I became more creative and more hungry than I'd ever been. And, and probably within, I'd say a month of that, within a couple of weeks, uh, CSI New York came about. So my agent called me, was like, "Hey, listen, they want to test you out for a new character, but they're not gonna do any sort of test deal until, or like any contract until you've done a couple episodes for them. So this is your sort of screen test in a sense." And I'm like, "Okay," and like they're like, "You start tomorrow. They're gonna write a scene." I'm like, "Oh man!" And I have an incredible learning disability. Like I need time with my script, just the way my brain works. And so I get the script, and they're like, it could change because they're writing it. They're just doing it right now. And there's like these massive words that, like alicyclic carboxylic and like aspergillus sedawi guadalupe churu churu, methoxydiisopropyl like these crazy words that I'm like, what? Like this is, and I only remember those words because they fucking haunt me. They still haunt me. I have anxiety dreams over them. Like I'm like, oh my god, I'm given the biggest opportunity in my life, and this is like, it's like having a dream where you show up to set and you're naked. It's like the same thing. So I was like, oh no. And there's Gary Sinise, and like I loved Forrest Gump, and every other movie that he's done. And he's like such an amazing actor, and he's the nicest guy in the world. But when he's on set, he's very focused. So he just has this sort of stare. That's his character. But I was like, oh god, fumbling and nervous, and I'm going through the scene, and I knock over like a beaker, and I'm super nervous, and he's going, and in my head I'm like, I'm fired. I'm not going to get past the first take, and I bumbled through one of the big words, but he got through, and they said cut, and the showrunner's like, AJ, I absolutely love the choice of making him super nervous and bumbling. What? This is great. So funny, you and Gary together. And I'm like, looking at him like, okay. And she's like, just keep doing that. I'm like, oh, okay. I can totally keep doing that. Like, it was just this. So it was just a fluke. And Gary loved it. He's like, that's great, kid. It's really funny what you're doing. I'm like, thanks. And I'm like, and then, which made me more nervous because then I'm like, I don't remember what I did. So it just kind of happened. And then they started writing. And the next time I came back, they wrote bumbling Adam, walked into the scene. So it kind of added to this thing that I was this nervous guy in the lab, which totally happened naturally. And then I had done a couple episodes, and I was in the parking lot, and I had like $32.95. I was in a 7-Eleven parking lot. And that's all I had in my bank account. And I actually have that framed in my office. And my phone rang, and it was my manager saying that they wanted to do a 7-year deal with me at CBS. And it like completely changed my life, like going 0 to 60 in a Tesla. And it just, everything changed.